Why doesn't anyone talk about Area 51 anymore? We used to be afraid of government experiments and alien technology, but no one really seems to care. Today, that's what we're going to tackle. Area 51, aliens, government conspiracies, and more. What's really going on? Is the truth out there? Stick around for episode 21 of Sasquatch Talk, starting now. Hello and welcome to Sasquatch Talk. My name is Bradley Valentine. I'll be your host today. We have Troy Miller at the top right of your screen and Dan the Man at the bottom of your screen. Changed his name from Silly Goober to Dan the Man, so it's very exciting to
Try to keep it rolling, you know.
We are on episode 20 and we're talking about Area 51. We're going a little bit back to those conspiracy theories. We're going to talk a little bit alien, a little bit government conspiracies. I want to get us started with a couple thoughts here. And I'll start with you, Dan. I want you to think about your childhood and aliens. Were you ever afraid as a kid or as an adult maybe of aliens in any way? Whether it was like an alien abduction or like alien invasion? And if so, at what point did you kind of come out of that? So that's the question. As a kid, were you ever afraid of aliens?
I wasn't afraid of it, even though I had watched a lot of War of the Worlds. But Flight of the Navigator was probably my thought what I wanted aliens to be like. Because that movie was great growing up in the 80s. And the thought of like just seeing some cool stuff.
Right.
That seemed really cool.
All right. So you kind of embraced it,
but
like you
not
thought it was fun?
Yeah, well, that's what I hoped it would be. Not like Close Encounters of a Third Kind with sunburns on half your face and like just looking like a crazy person, you know?
Sure.
That's what I wanted it to be like. I was never really like afraid of it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we have enough crazy family that real life brought enough entertainment that I didn't have to be worried about aliens.
All right. Troy, first of all, let's see that shirt, Troy, for the camera.
Yeah, it says it's the little alien. It's in Rachel, Nevada.
It's
speaking of the Area 51 being out there, got the shirt. Thought it was appropriate to wear the shirt for this episode. So
nice. Same question for you.
Yeah, I was never truly like scared of that. I heard the stories, you hear the reports and stories of people getting abducted and this and that, but it never prevented me from going to sleep. It never gave me nightmares when I was a child. It was just a story for me, right? It seemed so rare that it would happen at such a mass scale that it was just a story for me.
Yeah.
I just Brad, you saw Killer Clowns from Outer Space at a pretty young age, didn't you?
Of course, yeah.
So, were you ever afraid, or were you more of a Flight of the Navigator type?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think like of all whether it's like horror movies or scary subjects, aliens were never one of the things that were scary to me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because like as a kid, I didn't think they were real. I thought they were a movie thing, right? And then as an adult, I kind of, not to spoil it, but I'm like, okay, well, I know they're not real. So it kind of like equaled itself out. It was always like a TV thing where it's like something in a movie, like a killer, or
like a cartoon character.
Sure, but like in a real, like in other horror movies, there's other aspects like killers or demons, like those things are scary because a serial killer could kill you. So that kind of stuff, like movie wise, I was afraid of. Whereas aliens to me, they were kind of like you said, like almost like a cartoon thing. They were never real. Now, have you guys seen the movie Signs by M. Night Shyamalan?
Yeah.
Signs is a really good movie. I just rewatched it maybe a year ago or so, and it still holds up. And there's the scene where his brother's in that little closet watching the TV of the birthday party in Mexico, and the alien comes across the screen, and it's the best jump scare in movies for a long time. And that's just such a good movie. But to me, aliens have just always been just a movie thing. And so that's our thoughts on just growing up. But Dan, what about you? What else you got for us?
Well, every time we think of Area 51, since what was it, 2017, when they were gonna, like, a million people said that they were gonna
Yeah. I think
converge on Area
that was a little
51
bit,
and overrun it.
yeah, a little bit sooner than 2017, but yeah.
It was before 2020.
It
Okay.
was before
Maybe
COVID.
2019.
Okay.
Maybe
It was before
2019, but I
COVID.
think it was 2017.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, Regardless of the date, um, I always mess with my kids and call it Naruto, but Naruto, like the Naruto runners, right?
Yeah.
And I was every time I think of Area 51 now, I think of that. But what my question was going to be, are you, since you've already answered that you're not afraid of aliens, I've always had like a irrational, I don't want to say fear, but skepticism of being nabbed up for a government program. Like the Red Tails, that movie, like
Red
hold
Tails.
on, I've got it. The dudes that flew,
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about,
the
Troy.
pilots.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
pilots, right?
Mm-hmm.
They tested STDs on them to see if it would really make you go crazy.
Okay.
So they injected them with STDs. They sprayed LSD on like 4 city blocks in St. Louis. Like various people. That's what my whole thing with the X-Files was, is that it was always a government, test group that had escaped. They weren't aliens. They just looked weird because they had, either held them in space or in some kind of weird underground
Yeah.
laboratory testing weird DNA stuff on them, and that they weren't actually aliens. They were just always government experiments gone wrong and escaped. So I always had like, just given, like a lot of time spent with our uncles and
Yeah.
the family from that side, just always an irrational apprehension towards the government and not becoming an experiment gone wrong.
That's a good point. And Troy, have you ever watched X-Files?
I've seen a couple episodes. I never
A
sat
couple
down to watch it.
episodes.
Yeah, I never binged watched it. I never. Oh,
Dang.
X-Files was on. Let's turn it on.
Yeah.
I've never.
Are you even American? I don't know how the
The truth is out there, Troy, okay?
The truth is out there.
Yeah.
Listen, in X-Files, you're right. It's funny because Mulder believes that there are aliens, and Scully believes that, like, she's more of like, I'm logical, I'm this, I'm that. But there's always something weird going on, whether it's government testing or weird demented people. And sometimes there are straight up aliens in the show. Like they'll have like a little alien body, and
Yeah.
and
But it always, well, for like the first half of the season, it always turned out to not be alien.
yeah, it was always like we'll never really know what happens, and it always leaves you like, even if you're like 99% sure there are aliens, there's always that little doubt that they give you in the show.
Did either of you watch Project Blue Book?
No, never heard of it.
That one's good. That one's good.
Is it like fictional?
Yes. Well, yes and no. It's some artistic liberties taken on stories that happened from an actual Air Force entity called Project Blue Book.
I see.
That had to look into stuff because they really thought it was Russians, but there's like, it ties in because when Area 51 started, it like started with like Warner von Braun and rockets and stuff, in the middle, like not long after World War I.
Yeah.
When we brought a bunch of Nazi scientists over.
Yeah, that's a good. Let's roll into it a little bit.
Sorry, German scientists.
Yeah, that's a good transition to really getting into it. So let me just intro Area 51, and I think everyone knows what Area 51 is, but I think what we don't know necessarily that is Area 51 wasn't necessarily officially discussed by the U.S. government till 2013, I think.
No, it's before that, 47,
It Are you
because of
sure?
Roswell.
Well,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, according to Britannica, in 2013, the U.S. government officially acknowledged the existence of Area 51. That year, the National Security Archive at George Washington University obtained through the Freedom of Information Act a former classified CIA document that chronicled the history of the U-2 spy plane. And before heavily redacted, but I think we'll get into it. Like we find out Area 51 was essentially like a private, very secure place where we worked on like aircraft, right? Especially during, like you were saying, Dan, like the Cold War in the late 1940s, early 1950s. And the U-2 plane was a big one of them. Do you guys remember in 2013, Congressman, what's his name? Tim Burchett came out and basically said, like, yeah, aliens exist. If you saw what I saw, then you would, like, people would be terrified. And I think of, and I'll let you guys talk in a second, but I think of Sasquatch, and there are some theories that, like, if the American people knew that there was a Sasquatch out there, that Bigfoot existed, then we wouldn't be able to control ourselves, because there's another semi-intelligent humanoid animal that lives in our forests and in our mountains, and we just couldn't control that, and the people would freak out. So my question to you...
They would storm the mountains with their pitchforks and torches.
I don't buy it, but Troy, what do you think when it comes to this idea of, like, we couldn't handle it, or there's a government cover-up? What are you thinking, Troy?
I mean, this subject, there's a lot of military top secret technology, so there's going to be that whole element of cover-ups. So speaking about what you guys were talking about earlier was in 2017 or 2018, 2019 about storming Area 51. That was the event, and it was September of 2019 is when that was supposed to have occurred.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what you guys were talking about. I don't know. Aliens I'm kind of in the same crowd as you, Bradley. They don't exist, so they just, I never took it seriously. Like, I was never that die-hard conspiracy theorist that spent hours upon hours upon hours trying to find evidence that they really do exist.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Quick side note.
Yeah.
It became known as Area 51 when it was designated on Atomic Energy Commission maps.
Yeah, that
after atomic testing was going on. So that's like, 39-ish.
That was something weird, because, like, when I was doing some research, I was like, why is it called Area 51? That's not like the government didn't just say, okay, this is Area 51, like it's an old map system that you were saying.
The Atomic Energy Commission came out with those areas because of the wild testing that happened with atomic weapons.
Sure.
In that region, with atom bombs and H bombs and freaking anything you could blow up to decimate 30 square miles of anything. Yeah.
Troy?
And that leads to a lot of conspiracy is, the people that live in the area, because there's a lot of desert dwellers out there that were affected by radiation. There's been some horror movies with that too.
So speaking of that note, that wind that blew across that area would blow that radiation. So it wasn't just in that immediate area. In southern Utah and St. George, there was a heightened, not risk or chance, but there was a heightened cancer rate than the national average because of the winds blowing the radiation into that town. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet another example of government experimentation,
Yeah.
wreaking havoc on its populace.
You know, Dan, I was thinking the hills have eyes. I think
Yeah.
that's what you
Yeah,
were
I
thinking
just
too.
didn't want to say it.
This
I didn't
the
like that movie, by
the
the way.
remake in like 2005 or something is like a legitimately like messed up scary movie. Like it's like absolutely jacked up. Like this family
Hmm.
goes to the desert and these weird messed up people. I hate it. Like like you said, it's not a movie you necessarily want to watch unless you want to watch some brutal nasty stuff. But
Yeah.
talking about like the experimentation and stuff, Dan, is like why, I guess, whether you have like your knowledge base or whether that conspiracy part of your mind is clicking right now, why do you think it's such a mystery, and maybe less so today since things have kind of been declassified, but why do you think it's like such a mystery, such a place for conspiracies for us today? Area 51,
Um,
aliens, Nevada, all that.
I think a couple reasons, right? Like you've driven through the region. I know Troy's driven through the
Yep.
region. I've driven through it for like 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love the landscape.
So do I.
Yeah.
It feels so man, what is the right word for it? Martian,
Oh,
maybe our
Sure.
idea of Mars
Yeah.
landscape, right? You see there's always the Mars rover picture and like the dust and the rocks in the background and like the craggy
otherworldly.
mountains,
Yeah.
you know. It's so it was funny. We were on the beach taking a walk the other day. I think I was telling you, Brad, about this, but we talked to one of the lifeguards, and he said he went to Reno, Nevada for the first time recently, I think last year. And he said he was just captivated. Now we're down here in the Florida Panhandle where the beaches are bright white and the water is beautiful and like people come from all over to see this landscape.
Uh-huh.
And he grew up in Florida, but he was blown away when he went to Reno and you can see he's like it looks like it ends here and the horizon's flat.
Yeah.
But when you're in Reno and you're on a rise and you look across the basin, he's like, you lose all perception of how far things are. Because I always
Hmm.
play a game with the kids when we drive through there of how far the next rise, like where you see the road, there's
Mm-hmm.
these like long straight roads and they go over a ridge,
Yeah.
right? And that's like every 13-ish miles through Nevada and
Right.
Utah.
Yeah.
All of it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so like I always play the game with the kids. Right when we come over the rise, I'm like, look for the next one. How far is it? Is it 23 miles? Is it 10 miles? Is it 8 miles?
Right.
And our guesses are all over the place, and we can get close sometimes after the first three. You can start to gauge it, but you really lose perception as to how far it is. And like,
Sure.
I always think about those scenes in the movies where they look around and there's like nothing and the heat is sweltering and they see something far off in the distance and they're just like, it just seems so far,
Yeah.
and I always think about driving through there. Like we broke down in New Mexico coming here and
Mm-hmm.
like it was 102 or something on the side of the road. So I had to get a tarp out and make a tent because we were just like it felt like we were boiling alive on the
Sure.
roadside. And I just always think about that when we're blasting through the desert. Like, do you get a flat or something? You blow a radiator hose.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing for miles.
Oh
You gotta
yeah.
hope that a good Samaritan pulls over and out of the kindness of their heart gives you and
I
the rest of your family a ride somewhere.
I think that's what people think when they think of the West. Like they think of movies and get, some crazy deformed person taking you over or your car.
Deformed
But
person.
most people know, like if you don't get help and you don't have a barrel of water in the back,
Yeah.
it could get touch and go. So most
Yeah.
people will give folks a ride.
Yeah.
Like we ran across some folks out in Eastern Oregon. There's like some places where there's obsidian and there's
Mhm.
like some primitive campgrounds and there's nothing like
Yeah.
it's like Goodwill pay in a box, like there's no way to reserve your spot,
Huh.
and there's no way for them to come check on it because a ranger's not driving, 80 miles to go look at this remote campsite.
Right.
But I wanted to see this one for a long time. It's over close to Glass Butte. And it's out before, what's the name of it? Troy, do you know there's Lakeview and then Adele, Oregon? And before Adele, Oregon, before you get to Nevada,
You're
there's
not
like
talking
this,
about the Denio Junction.
before you get to Denio, yeah.
Denio.
Yeah, between
Denio.
Adele and Denio. Anyways, very desolate out there. Like you'll turn and go down a dirt road and all of a sudden there's like a ravine out of nowhere. But we went to go check out this campground to go camp at, and there was a couple whose car, they were at the edge of the road, and we gave them a ride to their car because their car had died. And so we gave them a jump. Their Subaru had died, and they had walked already 2 miles just to get signal to try to call. And the place that they called in Winnemucca hung up on them.
Huh.
And like,
Huh.
yeah, and it was an older couple from Klamath, or Ashland maybe. But we got them jumped and got them on their way. But man, that could have been a totally different story for them,
Yeah. Well, let's think about Area 51 a little bit and the conspiracy of like people think like, okay, like we keep aliens there, or we keep like that's where we've taken alien aircraft, and we've taken it and we've experimented with it and we've turned it into our own aircraft. Do you guys remember? Yeah. I think it was last year, Barack Obama said
I was just reading about that.
Aliens, and he was on a podcast, the Brian Tyler Cohen No Lie podcast.
February. That was just a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, you're right. That was a couple months ago. And he said,
it was pretty recent.
Are aliens real? And he said, quote, "They're real, but I haven't seen them. And they're not being kept in Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's an enormous conspiracy that they hid from the President of the United States." He then, I remember President Trump then said hey, you're not supposed to spill government secrets or stuff. And then he later on kind of redacted what he said. He said, yeah, the probability of aliens in such a vast universe is somewhat high, but the probability that them coming to us is low. So, Troy, let me ask you about President Obama's comments on they're real. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think he was just making it up or based on some information? What do you think?
Did you watch the podcast? Did you see his facial expression when he was saying that sentence?
I barely remember. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember that.
He had a kind of a serious look on his face. It wasn't in a joking manner or anything. He was saying it from I know this for a fact.
Right.
That's what his face looked like. But that's been part of the conspiracy that I've heard for years, is that they're hiding aliens at Area 51, and even the president doesn't even have clearance per se to go and see this and get access, right? That there's people more powerful than the president. That's always been the conspiracy. So when he said unless there's a conspiracy behind it, well, I mean, he just repeated what people have been saying for years. And then
think about this with that conspiracy thought. The president doesn't even know. For years, the CIA raised money for black ops stuff by selling drugs in American cities, selling coke, selling crack, selling meth, selling weed, selling heroin.
Okay.
For years to fund their stuff, and that information just came out maybe 2 years ago.
Well, that's like Afghanistan. That reason that we went into Afghanistan and was there for 20 years was to protect the hashish trade.
Yeah.
Instead of defeating the Taliban. But
right.
Yeah.
So Troy, go on with what you're saying with the people
Obama,
covering up from the president.
Yeah, and Obama, he even So the podcaster asked if aliens are real, and then Obama brought up there's no underground cavern or whatever,
Yeah.
and then brought up the conspiracy. 2 points that wasn't even really mentioned by the podcaster. Um, that's again been a part of the controversy, is that since Area 51, they started building it out in the 50s when no one had cameras and cell phones on their phones, and more capable vehicles to get to higher places to appear. Well, since all that has started to come out, they've started digging Area 51 and building it underground so you can't see it from the surface.
Yeah.
The only time you see something from the surface is when a hangar opens and a plane comes out and goes down the runway and takes off, right, for a test flight. Um, I, I mean, why would he bring up those points if they weren't even mentioned in the first place during that
Right.
little podcast? Yeah.
Well, that
So they're
goes.
clearly hiding something, like
Yeah.
there's something going on, and
Well,
with the
yeah,
intent of
I
doing
mean,
something, they're hiding. I don't know of
e-
actual aliens though.
Yeah.
even the Encyclopedia Britannica online, it's been surrounded by conspiracy theories, recovered alien spacecraft. In 2013, the government officially acknowledged it. That's what you were saying, Brad, through a FOIA,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a formally classified CIA document that chronicled the history of the U-2 spy plane. Heavily redacted version was released in 98.
Yeah.
A report in 55.
Yeah, so that was a part of that
and it-
release of the FOIA Act in 2013, is they released the bare minimum with very vague information. There was nothing
Right.
specific, nothing detailed.
But what you can see is that area has been used for almost 100 years now.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
We're like 10 years away from it being used for 100
The
years.
30s was when they started developing it. Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you think about all of there's one of the things I was reading is when you think about what we can see and what is out there for technology that is being used every day, right? The Concorde jet made transatlantic flight like 4.5 to 6 hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? With 4 augmented engines in it, okay? And the price of a ticket was pretty high, but if you were doing giant business moves and you were able to make it from New York to France and back in a business day, if you had a 14-hour business day, that opens up crazy possibilities. And then combine that with nanotechnology and all the stuff going on, it's not too far of a stretch to think that there's some wild, wacky stuff going on there.
So what are you saying specifically about Area 51? That it's just
Uh,
wacky stuff about technology?
Yeah, not necessarily. UFO just means an unidentified flying object.
Unidentified.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean extraterrestrial flying object.
Right.
It means unidentified.
Yep.
I will say there's some funky stuff going on with a meteor headed to us where it's like, leaving the orbit, outpacing gravity from a star and doing some funky things, and it looks different, right, than a lot of other space junk or whatever you want to call it. And I don't necessarily believe that aliens are the Hollywood version of aliens, I would be more likened to believe that they were demons or fallen angels, if it was anything, which still means they're extraterrestrial in nature. But I think that Area 51 as a whole is definitely a test bed for lots of NASA and military projects that they don't necessarily want large populations of people to get a glimpse of.
Yeah. So, Troy, think about this. You live in the area, let's say it's 1950, 1960, right? Kind of the Cold War is going on. You're afraid of someone dropping an A-bomb on you. you live in Nevada in a small little town where there's 250 people, and you see some odd object in the sky, UFO, if you will. And I think that's where we get the ideas, Troy, of like creepy little guys like in a flying saucer. Do you think that's all it was? Just like some experimental plane, maybe the F2 or whatever it was. I don't know if the years line up with the F2 or U2, I should say. But do you think that's all it was? Just people saw creepy things, and then there was this military base that you couldn't go into, you couldn't go near. There were guys with guns out in the front. What do you think, Troy?
I think that's exactly what it is. You got to understand that Nevada's skies, because it gets no moisture, the skies are clear, basically year round. So even at night, you could see the stars, but you'd see an anomaly, quickly flashing lights, disappear in one spot and reappear in another spot, right? It might be two different planes doing something, training, right?
Yeah.
It could be a whole number of things. You'll see the satellites, just that solid light going across the sky. And so you were talking about unidentified. The F-117, if you guys are familiar with that one, it's that triangle. It's the first stealth fighter plane, basically. It fought in the early 90s. It was in the first Gulf War.
Yeah.
Well, before that plane was released, there were reportings of unidentified flying objects of a triangular aircraft flying around the skies of Nevada.
Yeah.
When I was going through training to go to Afghanistan, we went to a facility near Tonopah out in the middle of Nevada, and the dining facility was called Night Hawk Inn. Yeah, so that's exactly what you just described, I think is happening. It's top secret military aircraft that might have some kind of, it's still in development, technology-wise. They don't know what the repercussions might be if something goes bad. So they keep it all far out in the distance and put up signs and cameras to try and keep the public out for their safety mainly. And that whole area around Groom Lake, Area 51, at its core is also a bombing range. So you'll get aircraft from Nellis in Vegas, from Arizona, even from Kingsley here in Oregon. They'll fly down there and just do bombing runs and get their hours in and do training. Sometimes it looks like an unidentified flying object to the untrained eye, right? To people who don't know what they're looking at.
Well, let me ask you this, Dan, as a follow-up. Why wait till 2013, and even in 2013, still heavily redacted? Why not address it as the government and say, like, yeah, we're doing classified military projects?
Because nobody wants to put the target somewhere, right?
What do you mean?
If you for national security, right?
Okay.
Let's say you wanted to have the edge on your would-be foes, right? You don't want to give them a place to look for things, right?
I mean, it's not like people didn't know it existed, Area 51. They knew it existed.
Right, but it's much better to shroud it in nonsense, whimsical nonsense, than it is to say, yeah, that's where we test all our new stuff.
I might even
right.
Troy, go ahead.
What good would it do, Bradley, if they did that?
I guess it would allow us as people to understand, like, hey, our government works sometimes in secret, but it's like nothing crazy or scary or weird is going on. Like, it's just transparency,
Yeah,
they do say that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, while they're saying that, they're building a new facility elsewhere to do their top secret technology, while all of the attention goes to Area 51, right? Or whatever it might be. So everyone keeps talking about Area 51. Meanwhile, they're doing all the biopsies on alien bodies in the middle of Alaska, for example. You know what I mean?
So you're saying even if there was good quality transparency, people would come up with a different conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's people.
Okay, I will buy that. Troy, I buy your argument. Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. I guess my thought is like on your point, Dan, like it's not like the Russians didn't know Area 51 existed, you know? It's not like they're like, oh, 2013, like some 70-year-old spy
They
is
did.
like,
That's
oh,
why
I
they've
knew
tried
this.
to. That's why they've tried to get into top secret bases all around the country for years.
Sure.
So, do you guys think the Soviet Union had their version of Area 51?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
from what we know, we basically know it was just a place where classified experimentation on and warcraft, right? Essentially, that's basically what it
weapons.
was. Of course they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the
Yeah.
question is, I mean, especially from the 40s to the early 90s, transparency was not part of the Soviet
The
Union.
Soviet Union,
so-
not at all.
No.
I
And
think,
it still isn't.
right.
No,
it's,
no.
I guess my point is like, it's very different in the US. Like, we somewhat expect the government to be transparent. So when they're not,
Explain your actions.
right.
Explain your actions, kid.
And in Russia,
Dude,
I don't think,
uh,
yeah.
Being in the military for as long as I have, I don't expect any kind of transparency.
Yeah, but you're not.
And any transparency they do have is probably a fabrication of reality.
You're not the.
And it changes the next second.
Yeah, you're not the
it's always
normal
gonna
U.S.
change.
citizen, right? What I'm saying is most people, not 20-year, career military people. Most people expect the government to tell them what's going on. Is my point, right? Again, I'm not talking about you, Dan, because you are.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
But most people, like you walk around, you expect some sort of transparency. So when you have Area 51, it kind of like lights up like a red flag, a red light in your head and say like, what's going on? Why aren't they being transparent? And that's where the conspiracies come with, you know?
Oh,
Now,
yeah, for sure.
I guess the question is like, kind of what you're saying, Troy, like, what does it matter? Like, did anything bad happen that it was classified for 40, 50, 60 years or whatever it was? I mean, we basically, the biggest thing that came out of it is we made a bunch of movies. We sold a bunch of merch, that's really it.
Shirts.
Yeah, exactly. We made diners in Nevada with aliens in Utah and all that. So,
UFOs hanging on a tow.
Yeah.
You know, we as people have a curiosity for oddities.
Yeah.
Because as long as people have existed, we have been in the business of exploitation.
Yeah.
Hey, Ed can jump 3 barrels. 2 cents to see Ed jump 3 barrels. You know?
Right.
Or like, Annie Oakley can shoot a gun while riding a horse backwards. What would you pay to see that? So people would pay to see that. I can jump a motorcycle over 57 buses. I'm probably going to break every bone in my body, but how much would you pay to see it?
Mm-hmm.
People have been, you can do that? I can do this. For as long as men have been men, we've tried to jump farther, jump faster, throw farther, catch a bigger fish, run faster.
Yeah.
Ball harder.
I think of the Patterson-Gimli film, which is where we started our podcast, right? With Sasquatch. Does Sasquatch
That's that
exist?
original Sasquatch clip. Yeah.
What I think of Area 51, and let's just call 2013 as the pinnacle year of when the whole idea and mystery of Area 51 was kind of given to the government, say like, hey, nothing that crazy is happening. I feel like we are 13 years removed from, let's say in 13 years, today, the government comes out and say like, well, Sasquatch was just like some guys testing like a military suit. And we've been testing it for 50 years. I'm just making something up, right?
It's a ghillie suit.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess my question is like, why didn't you just tell us? And that's what I feel like with Area 51 is like, why, like, we have this big conspiracy. Why didn't you tell us?
Here's why. Because as a government, security is a poker game. You're constantly trying to read the face of everyone that could be an enemy at any time while playing your cards as close to your chest as possible. And if you want them to think, even if bluffing wins you the edge, right? In World War II, we had blow up aircraft and like all kinds of decoy stuff, right?
Right.
And we won battles just by having things that looked like something else. The Italians marched 12 of the same guys through tunnels in changing uniforms to make the enemy think that they had 200 people when they only had 12. And they didn't even fire a single shot and the enemy left. So the whole point of not telling is to bluff better, right? And you let their imagination run wild.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Until they decide to call your bluff, you appear tougher or more well equipped than you are.
Okay. I get what you're saying. I want to get into the idea. We have about 10 minutes left. And talk about some of the things regarding alien life and what some people in our government have said. We've talked about how President Obama said, like, yeah, they exist, blah, blah, blah. Tim Burkett, he's a representative, said the following. And when you listen to this, I want you guys to think about, are you buying what he's selling? He said, I've been briefed by just about every alphabet agency there is. And I'll just say this. If they were to release the things that I've seen, you'd be up at night worrying about, thinking about all this stuff. It goes on to say, Burkett then claimed that he was briefed 2 weeks prior to an issue that would have set the earth, quote, on fire if revealed. This country would have come unglued if they think the public would have heard what I heard. They would demand answers. And I think that kind of goes with what you're saying, Dan. Like we kind of have to, like, we have this security, and part of it is like saying, like, sleight of hand, like, look over here when what's going on is over here. Are you buying this idea that if the American public knew about the truth about aliens or UFOs or whatever, that it would set the earth on fire? Would we be able to handle it? I'll start with you, Troy.
I think we'd be able to handle it. I mean, there'd be a lot of, I think there'd be a lot of things that a lot might not have heard of. Like, I didn't know that was going on, but this Burgess guy, when did he say that quote? And is he still alive?
Yes, he's still alive. This was recent.
Well, how needed is this dude that he's been briefed by every three-letter agency?
Yeah, and
like, what's his lot?
He's a Tennessee.
Right? What does he do?
He's a Tennessee rep.
And if he's saying that all the alphabet agencies have briefed me, wouldn't that make him a target by the supposed people who had briefed him? Right? Like, that's why I was asking: is he still alive? I don't know.
He's alive, and I think he did say, like, I'm not suicidal. Oh, later another paragraph, it says Burkett then shared, for the record, I'm not suicidal. So you're thinking the same thing he was thinking. Okay, Dan, same
when did
thing.
He say that?
I think this was in April.
That was pretty recent, like a year or two ago, right?
This was a newer article from April, like just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, so that's recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said that again. Somebody else said something like that pretty recently.
Yes, there was like a
within
big
the last
thing,
year.
There was a big thing. The same guy in 2023 basically proclaimed that, like, aliens exist. That was him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, because he said he wasn't suicidal then also.
Yes, yeah. Listen, bro, no one wants to kill you. Like,
well,
okay.
That depends on what he knows.
So.
Yeah.
So
and how much he spilled.
Same question to you, Dan, and I want you to really answer this question. Do you think we could handle the information that he has, or is he blowing smoke up our butts?
Here's what I think. There's some scary stuff out there. You read through DARPA's stuff, what they're doing. I don't like any of that stuff. There's since 2020 happened, I really doubt what people could handle, right? They couldn't handle a convicted drug abuser person who hit women high on fentanyl trying to pass off counterfeit money who had a beef with the officer that arrested him.
You're talking about George Floyd, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We as people couldn't handle that. Okay. Then you go back to World War II. We had actual Nazi submarines that landed off the coast of Miami, and Nazis made it very far into our country, but some three-letter organizations stopped them on American soil, and they didn't release that till 50 years later because they didn't think the American people could handle it.
So are you saying he has some information that he thinks we couldn't handle, but it has nothing to do with aliens, or like?
Yes.
Okay. So he's blowing smoke because he makes it sound like it's aliens.
I think that anytime you want to conceal something, you let people believe it's something else, right?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Or you have a distraction, but get them to get all the
So
information
you're
on
saying
something else.
he's actually covering something up, and he's actually playing sleight of hand with us. Tim Burkett,
Yes.
the representative, is trying to say, look over here, aliens, when it's really, look over here, we're putting LSD in the water. I just made that up, right?
Yeah. Whatever the scenario
But
you
no
want to
one-
make it,
No, what
I think every
why?
representative out there talks out both sides of their mouth at the same time.
Yeah.
They say
Yeah.
one thing so they don't have to say something else.
I don't understand why you say this, why he would just randomly bring up aliens.
Because it maintains the illusion that there's something else to be worried about instead of being worried about the government. That's what I think every American should be worried about, is the government.
Okay.
I mean, think about back to when we were trying to break away from England. You know, they were literally trying to pit every colony against each other.
Sure.
And spreading lies and stuff. And it took us being like, wait, we are not each other's enemy. They're the ones trying to oppress us, right? What does big government have to worry about other than the entirety of the American population all getting on the same page? Because imagine for a moment that all Democrats and all Republicans now understand that every single one of our tax dollars is being misspent and being, used for things that we don't want them to be used for. And everybody realizes that they have 8 homes when we barely have 1 home. And, we're mad because diesel's $6 a gallon and $8 a gallon in California. They don't care if diesel was $57 a gallon. They still have 12 houses.
I don't understand why Tim Burkett, a random Republican congressman from Tennessee, would start talking about aliens because he's trying to cover up the rich government workers, or like, what does that have to do with Troy? Go ahead.
What do you know about his history and his
very
posting
little
history? Like, does he have a reputation of posting just smoke up the ass kind of comments like that on Twitter and whatever else?
All I know is he did it in 2023 and he doubled down this year. That's all I know. I remember him being in the news a few years ago, and I remember him being in the news again. So I guess like what are we saying? Like, there's like, he's covering up a personal scandal, or he's covering up for the whole military complex, or like what?
If anything, it would probably be that whole military complex.
But why
component.
this random guy who no one's really listening to? Like,
that's what I mean, And if he was actually
somebody's
serious,
listening to it. We're talking about him.
Yeah, but we're a bunch of nuts, right? Like, we're
and we're questioning him, right? We're not like believing what he said. We're questioning why he would say that. I guess he was on public record as a public official, right?
I guess what I'm getting is like he's like a little kid in a town who like stole something from like his sister, right? And then he went
It's
out
his,
into the middle of the town and said, "Hey everyone, there's this crazy thing that happened. I saw a
Well,
dog, a wolf come in and it
isn't that Peter cried wolf,
yeah,
right?
but the
It's
problem is
just
like no
seeking
one gives a
attention.
crap that this 8-year-old stole from his 5-year-old.
well,
Like,
think about this. I just did a quick lookup of Tim Burkett,
yeah.
uh, and he introduced the UAP Whistleblower Protection Act.
Okay.
So the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Whistleblower Protection Act, he introduced that.
So he's big. He's got a reputation of being into this whole alien UFO
Yeah.
scandal,
I mean,
cover up, whatever you want to call it.
he's been calling for transparency. So maybe, Brad, he's more on your thought process of, well, if there's nothing to hide, why hide it?
That I guess we've come up with a couple answers. Is one,
He's also referenced biblical passages of Ezekiel's version as potential ancient UFO sightings. So here's what I'll say. He's received death threats due to his outspoken stance on UFO disclosure. That's why he said, I am not prone to suicide.
right.
So here's what
Made
I'll
himself
say.
a target.
What? Well, yeah, exactly. But
Mhm.
also, okay, the three of us all believe the Bible is real and that Jesus is real, right?
Okay. Yes.
And you think about Rome's stance during the time of Jesus, right?
Okay.
There was a king that had every kid killed
Right.
because he thought that another king was being born.
Right.
Why would our government be any different at hiding something if they thought that everybody suddenly becoming Christian would remove their power?
I don't see. So you're saying what?
I'm saying, here's what I'm saying. If he's drawing conclusions that maybe the thing that would be opened up is that Christianity is real.
That's what Tim
Right.
Burkett is saying.
Well, I'm speculating.
Didn't he just say Ezekiel wasn't actually a vision from a prophet, but aliens?
He claims, okay, he referenced biblical passages like Ezekiel's vision as potential ancient UFO sightings.
Okay, so he's full of nonsense because that's what the whole book of Ezekiel is a prophecy from angels and God. So listen, we've pulled a thread. I think Tim Burkett has really unraveled us. The problem is we're out of time now. Like, we're done.
Do we need Area 51 Part 2?
Yes, we do. And I want
All
you
right.
guys to do some research on Tim Burkett, and we'll go from there. Are you good with that, Troy? Area 50.
Yep.
Okay, so if you're
Part
still
two
listening,
next
huh?
Part 2 next time.
Part 2 next time. So if you're still listening, listener, we just got started. We're gonna go into Tim Burkett.
We're not pulling the rug. We're gonna pull the rug out by pulling all the threads.
I can't wait. We are out of time though. This has been Sasquatch Talk. We're the owners of Sasquatch Gun Oil. Go to sasquatchgunoil.org to get yours today. You'll love it. You're really gonna want it. Thanks for hanging out with us.
It's so good you might think it came from a UFO.
There you go. That's all we got. Adios. See you guys.